Are you someone who has teams reporting to you? Are you someone who manages a bunch of people in your organization? Well, the situation that we are in, the new normal that we are forced into, has along with it brought two things. It has brought opportunities for us to grow and reinvent ourselves. It has also brought challenges that we as leaders and managers are facing in this digital world. Hi, I'm Karthik Sundararaman. This is Enriching Beliefs with Karthik Sundararaman, and thank you very much for tuning in. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 challenges that you're going to be facing in this digital world. Yeah, so let's dive straight into that. If you can see on the screen, I'm just listing out the top 5 challenges. Let's go to the first one. The first one you'll start seeing or already started to witness is poor engagement with your team or within your team. Yeah, so when you're trying to engage well with your people, you will see this kind of poor engagement happening. And these are the reasons for that. The first thing goes like this. So if you really don't have an idea how to facilitate in a digital world, let's understand that facilitating in a offline world versus facilitating in an online world are two different skills. It needs practice. It needs a lot of trial and error before you get into understanding what works and what doesn't. And if you do not know how to facilitate, you're going to see a lack of engagement within your team. Yeah, so that's the first thing you have to keep in mind. Second thing is again about how to run meetings in a digital world. How to make sure that people are either coming on time, and if they are coming into the meetings, are they really prepared well for the meeting? Are they adding value? Is the meeting of the right amount of time, or are we spending too much time in the meetings? Because let's understand this, meetings in offline world is definitely different than something online, because in an offline world you can easily pull out a pen and a paper and showcase to people how it really works. And in an offline world or in an online world also you can do that, but it can get a little tricky. You might have to repeat lots of things many times, and it just gets a little tricky doing that. Yeah, so if you don't know how to run meetings efficiently in an online world, this can be a tricky situation. Okay, so let's go to the third point here. How do you make a session interactive? In an offline world, at least you can see that if someone is actually watching their mobile, if there's someone not paying good enough attention to the board or what you're explaining. But in an online world, it gets really difficult. You really can't make out, especially when you're looking at your own screen and explaining stuff, it becomes really difficult if someone is connecting with you, if they're really engaging with what you're trying to tell them. This really results in a lot of bad engagement, and it has its own ripple effects later. So this is something, if you're a leader, you have to really watch out for. Know how to make the session interactive so that you have the people engaged into your conversation or what you're trying to say. Yeah, so this is the third point. The fourth point is you really have to understand how to establish accountability. Accountability is not about just asking what you did yesterday, what you're going to do today, and if there are challenges you're facing. That's a part of creating accountability, but there's more to it. Especially if you're in a digital world. And how to do that is again a great skill to have, especially in this new normal era that we call. Yeah, so that's the first point that you as a leader will face, poor engagement. Let's just jump into the second point. Let's see what we have here. The second point is you cannot identify demotivation. This is something I've really struggled to identify with my team in the online world. And not just online, this is a skill in itself, to identify just by looking at the people, looking at their pattern of behavior, or whatever kind of communication they're trying to send out. It's a great skill to have, but very difficult to master. Yeah, so the first point is more towards, even in the offline world, right? When you're having face-to-face discussion, it gets really tricky to know if someone is demotivated or not, because when you're having conversation, they might just change their state and they may just give you the answers and they may just go off. You might not know the underlying emotions or the underlying things or whatever they're going through, which might cause demotivation or is already causing demotivation in them. Yeah, so again, what I've also seen is whenever I ask people to turn on their camera, they just get a little not so comfortable doing that, and just with voice it gets really more tricky to identify if someone is demotivated. At least if you have someone in front of you on the cam, you can really understand if through their expressions or whatever they're putting out, through their communication, if they're motivated, demotivated, or what kind of state they're in. And this is a big problem that you will face as a leader if you cannot have video conversation. If it's only over audio, it's a big killer to give you those good enough pointers, and this can cause demotivation again. Yeah, so that's the second point. Let's understand the third point: loss of personal connect. I think most of us, the world over, we are facing this more than anything at this moment. When there's so much of stress, strain, and uncertainties going on, it's the personal connect. We being social animals, this is something we crave for. And without this personal touch, personal connect, it's not just about interacting well. It's even in a biological sense, the personal connect is very important for us as humans, because that triggers certain chemical flow in the body, which is really important for us to establish trust and meaningful relationship. Now let's see what points come out here. So again, if you're only conducting meetings online and just talking about what did you do today, what are the status update, why didn't you send the mail, and all those regular things, you will lose the connect much faster. Because at least if you're in the offline world, you might at least go with them for tea or coffee or any other offline meetings, and you will have a other kind of interaction as well outside of the work that you're doing. So that's the second point here. Most of the heart-to-heart connect and discussions happens with your team members when you're exactly not discussing about work, when you're talking about their personal interests or what they did on that day, any just casual talk that you have with them. Without that, it really affects the personal connect that you have built, the rapport that you have built. And if that really keeps continuing, it lead to loss of trust, because you cannot articulate exactly how you feel for them. They cannot do that for you, or they cannot even communicate. And with the loss of personal connect, the trust drops, frustration creeps in. Yeah, so this is something you have to really watch out for if you're a leader having people reporting to you. Yeah. So let's go to the fourth point now. Let's see what it has. This is another thing, and it also relates to the point where we spoke about if you are really not connecting over face to face, at least over the camera, because most of them are really not comfortable talking over cam. They just turn it off and they say either the internet connection is not well. That can be a genuine reason, and they might not be really comfortable turning it on. So you really can't read the non-verbals clearly. Just for a matter of fact, 70 to 90% of our communication that we do is a non-verbal communication. Just how we move our hands, the kind of facial expressions that we do, the tone that we have, or even the expression, is it a happy, sad, stressed out? All these things are the non-verbal cues that you should have, you keep getting when you communicate with people. And going online and not talking over camera, this can lead to serious miscommunication. Yeah, so if you're losing out on 70 to 90% of communication, you're losing out so much on what the other person is trying to say. And if you're losing out on communication, it creates a gap between you and the person who's interacting with you. This is something which I'm sure most of the managers and leaders are missing out. They can't understand how they're feeling. Just with the tonality, it becomes really tough to identify. Yeah, so that's the fourth point. Let's go to the fifth and final point. We are all adjusting to the new normal. This point is not to blame anyone, not to put anyone on the spotlight, but when the change happens, the adjustment should also happen, and it takes time. That's what we have to acknowledge. And during this process, you will see the professional time getting into the personal space. Although we have cut down on the communication, on the commutation time, we're all working from home, having a little bit extra time instead of commuting. But still, I see lots of the work time creeping into the personal space. It's okay once or twice, but if this consistently happens, what you will see is lower productivity, because there is no enough rest cycle. There is no unlearning cycle, or focusing out of what you're doing, mingling with your friends and family. If that doesn't happen, if you're in the same cycle, your productivity drops. We as humans, we are great at producing things when you work in cycles. So there should be a production cycle, there should be a rest cycle, other cycles, and then back to the productivity cycle. If that doesn't happen, the productivity starts dropping off. So this is something you as leaders should really be focused on, and you should ask them, if they are not communicating this on all by themselves, that are you getting enough time with your family, or do you think we should make certain adjustments in the timing? Yeah, so if you can really ask them, people will be really appreciative of you, and you will see the production coming up, the motivation going up. Yeah, so if you can relate to one or more of these, please do comment below and let me know your thoughts on this, and what kind of challenges outside of this that you are facing, or you or we might as leaders might face in the future. And if you have any tips, do write it down as well, so that someone who's watching this video will also be benefited. Yeah, so that's me with this topic, which I think will help most of you working in this digital space in this new normal time. And I hope it gave you some kind of idea, and thank you so much for tuning in, watching this video, and spending your time here. Thank you very much, and all the best for your future. Yeah, thank you very much.